Being a writer is truly an extraordinary thing. I believe that literature as a whole does force us or stimulate the process of deep thinking in the human mind. Whether it's just to wrap your head around the concept of whatever the heck you're reading or trying to understand it on a much deeper and more intimate level. Writing as a whole is just a absolutely fantastic medium to, be able to express such a concept. And that's where I also find it to be one of the most challenging fields to actually dip into. Or, well, the exact opposite reason on why it's, so spectacular. And this is coming from me, a very, very novice, amateurish writer that wants to become a storyteller, a web novelist. Get into the field. It looks very fun, and I very much would enjoy getting to it. Oh, I'm sorry. How rude of me. I haven't introduced myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Bashman. That's the alias I'll be going by at least. And, well, if you're watching this video, then well, it's my first publicly published video on the platform. Anyways, sorry for the brief and not intimate, uh, not intimate introduction, but I want to get to the crux of what I had for this video. And that's the differentiation between a good writer and a good storyteller. Because I think there very much is a difference between the two. A good storyteller is likely to be a good writer. And a good writer's, you know, is likely to be a good storyteller. However, they're two very, very significantly different things. And there is a distinction between the two. Like I'd say I'm a good writer, but goodness, I'm kind of a butt storyteller, at least right now. I'm still learning, obviously. It's, I feel the main difference that I view uh, a good writer and a good storyteller is probably, honestly, I had to go as simple as just say it's in the name. A good storyteller is able to, string a tale, invest the audience in whatever they're writing. While a good writer is able to, at a surface level, provoke the reader's interest in whatever they might be trying to, express through their writing. However, I feel, at least I can apply this to myself personally, I very much struggle with trying to tell a tale that is both philosophically engaging or mentally engaging while also being entertaining for the reader to, indulge in. And a very big reason why I'm interested in posting videos is to try to, I suppose the main reasoning behind me doing is to, I suppose, get comfortable or chronologically log my writing journey and, learn from my ups and downs, my goods and bads, see what exactly I can get out of this whole YouTube thing in the short term. I think being able to see, the progress that I put in every day and then, contrast it between my current thoughts, I think is a great way. It's it's like a consistent loop of self recollection. Oh goodness, what's the word? Reflection. Sorry. Oh goodness. I do apologize for my choppiness. I'm doing this without a script. I'm just kind of winging it with the general idea of what I want to cover. So I will make sure that things like that do get patched up and is a bit more professional in the future. This is just, I suppose, an experiment, if you'd like to call it that. But yeah, hopefully I'll be able to learn from, you know, my rights and wrongs and maybe give you guys like very, very compelling and entertaining adventure. I know writing is such a it's such a like solo field. It's a field that very much relies solely on one person. There's not a lot of like big writing groups, but that doesn't mean that you can't have, I know, a bit of a journey with multiple people in in the whole writing. Whereas I think it's very much parts of the case to case basis, but I most definitely believe that, something like writing can be applicable to a larger group. At the very least, you guys get to have fun while I, you know, do my rights and wrongs and hopefully learn well, you know, right beside me as I'm learning. I think that would be my most cherished outcome if that's the case. I would love if people could take from my mistakes and my ups and see what they can do with them. I don't know. I think that would be very nice. Um learning experience like these don't happen often. I know there are people who do channel or I just said the word earlier. I know there are people that like record their full life throughout the duration of it. Like I know I've seen a few people do it. I forgot off the top of my head who exactly it was, but I have seen YouTube videos of other individuals, just posting their life, what goes on in the day to day, their progress, their goals, their aspirations. It's like their whole stories like almost immortalized on the platform. And I think that's very, very, I don't know, charming in a sense. With a lot of media nowadays, you don't get to see a lot of the intricacies that go on behind the scenes, let alone someone's whole day-to-day life and what they strive for. I don't know. I find that so deeply fascinating about the prospect of being able to view someone's life through, you know, their lens. It's cool. Very cool. Oh, sorry, I've been rambling on a bit more than I expected. Ah, yes, going back to the main topic of the video. So, what are the characteristics that separate a storyteller from a writer, or a good storyteller and a good writer, if you'd like to apply that? I think that makes a bit more sense for the sake of this video. Like I said before, a good writer is able to captivate the audience, but only on a superficial level. There's a lot that doesn't get covered, by a writer. There's only so much one individual writer is able to use or able to do in conveying, a certain feeling to the reader. And I think that's very much also a byproduct of writing and creative writing be, two different fields, because to a certain extent you do have to use your brain and use your creativity to woo the audience. With that said, though, they are very, very similar fields. They do overlap a, substantial bit. While they are very much categorized in their own, particular niches, both are very, very helpful in each other. They're both very, very helpful skills if you're going into the same generalist concept, which I mean, writing and creative writing. I mean, the only difference is, the whole storytelling aspect and a few other things. It's not overly simplified like that, but it also is a lot less complicated than would have you think. At least from my perspective. I don't know. I'm a bit of a savant, not to brag in this particular thing. I'm very, very gung ho in dissecting things to their most minute detail. At least in most cases. Things I'm interested in at least. But while I say that, I wonder if there is a reason to distinguish the two fields. And it really plays a part. And the answer to that question very much depends on your viewpoint on categorization. Because writing, at the end of the day, creative writing and regular writing, or journalistic writing, I suppose we'll refer to it, give it a proper name. At the end of the day, they're just different variations of writing. Are the variations of writing so substantially different to where it's necessary to, split them up into two different or two completely different fields? Or is it something that we can safely just blanket over one overarching term, which is writing? Which honestly, I I'm not against that idea because writing, I do think it's very much a like all not quite all encompassing concept, but it's a concept that spans very far and wide. And I'm not sure if the whole creative variation is even like a valid enough reason to distinguish the two things. I suppose what I'm getting at is I'm a bit conflicted. Perhaps it's good to be this way, though. I don't know. I feel like people can have their own individual feelings and values in regards to, how they feel about, these certain topics, even if it's something as innocuous as the differentiation in, writings. I don't know, I feel like I do love don't get me wrong, I am very much a fan for absolutism in, certain fields, ideologies, thought processes or something. It just becomes a lot easier to categorize things that way. Because when we have so many things that people cannot comfortably and without a shadow of a doubt categorize into their own thing, then well, things start to get very complicated. I think a majority of us do respect and very much appreciate the subtlety and simplicities in life. I feel like that's where a lot of happiness comes from. Unfortunately, things are not always that simple. But 'tis is life. Life ends up being quite a maelstrom of different events, occurrences, and all that lovely stuff. Sometimes it can feel very, very disheartening, very lonely. I know things can feel like that they're crashing down to the ground and the world's gonna end over it. And well, while I'm getting very off topic when talking about this generalist topic, I think it very much can be applied to the writing process. Us as writers very much do struggle to find, what could be our magnum opus. What do we want to be remembered by? What do we want to put out into the world? How do we want to provoke the reader to enjoy our story? Very much valid questions, and it can weigh heavy on a lot of writers. I know it weighs heavy on me. I think it's most important that no matter what you write, you do enjoy what you're writing. I think that that is by far one of the most important fundamentals that you stick to. You know, don't sweat the small stuff. Just go with the flow with caution. Why doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose? Kind of. I hope what I'm trying to get across is like somewhat cohesive. I won't consider myself the deepest of thinkers, but I do like to do it from time to time. It's a fun pastime. Hmm. Knowledge, in the same sense, it's as much of a blessing as it is a curse. I think our capacity to be able to think and challenge things critically is very much a gift. But in the same context, it can also very much be, you know, one of the great or the most exhausting and grating things in our life. I guess that's just a human experience, though. We really do just go through life taking the sweet with the sour, the good and the bad. Perhaps some of the cruelties in life are not justified. Perhaps we could use a little bit less in the world. It's not all bad. I feel like it's very easy to get lost in the mindset that life is some cruel game that, is constantly provoking us to be unhappy, which, well, I suppose isn't particularly untrue, but there's also a lot that you can enjoy and, love in life. There's very much a lot of things in the world, even for Vlad that they are, that very much, are worth, living the experience for. And that's something that I've grappled with for a very long time, that I very much struggled with. But I suppose things wouldn't be as interesting if we could just break them down into the most basic level. Well, not things like these. Or maybe I'm just a pretentious snob. That's probably equally true. I won't lie. But yeah, I think that's all I have to cover for this particular video. I do appreciate whoever might have wandered across this video, even as it gets 0 views. May this just be a monument for my future success. At least I'd like to think about it like that. Anyways, I hope all of you enjoyed watching and hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.